Welcome to The Disruption Is Now. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore how AI is impacting our jobs, careers, lives, and the human experience. Each episode, host Greg Matusky will converse with visionaries and innovators at the forefront of AI, diving into its challenges, opportunities, and impact. So buckle up as we venture into the heart of disruption, and together, let's unfold the future.
Well, welcome to another episode of The Disruption Is Now, the podcast that tackles all things about AI and human communications. I am Greg Matusky. I'm your host, but I'm also the CEO of Gregory FCA, one of the country's largest public relations agency, which ironically, we were just voted or just won the Silver Anvil Award from the Public Relations Society of America as the most AI-enabled PR shop in the country, which I'm very proud of. It's a journey we've been on for 4 years, is to use all the productivity and efficiencies and smart uses of AI that could help us better serve clients. So I am joined today by Aaron Gotwalt, and he's CTO of a company that is in stealth mode, but is coming out here shortly, really dedicated to an area that I've always wanted to investigate, smart homes and the application of AI. Aaron, did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I live in a smart home. I'm not sure how smart it is, but I think that when you think about how AI is transforming so many industries and spaces and experiences, I think that there's this unexplored space beyond that into the home to make really actually smart, engaging experiences.
And you were making some good points before we went live just about where it stands right now in the home. And it is eye-opening where we are in the spectrum of what can be. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I think a provocative thing I've been asking people is like, do you have a smart home today? Like it's a label that we put on things. And I live in a smart home. Every light in my house is controlled by, I use Home Assistant to control everything, and it sits inside Apple Home. I have smart locks. I've got smart cameras. But the word smart doesn't really imply much more than connected. And, it requires me to be smart to set it up, to get it to do the things that I want it to. It asks a lot of me to make it useful. And I think that these smart home things, in some ways, aren't much far removed from. Do you remember those light timers that you used to use?
Absolutely.
Where you punch the little tabs. Like, we're not too far away from that. The way that we connect it, the way that we control it's a little bit more evolved, and I can use it from my phone and across the country. But the actual mechanics haven't really changed all that much.
And what's caused that? Is it that there's been a lack of creativity in the approach by developers? Or is it that there's some sort of obstacle when it comes to the home? What do you think has been the gating factor there?
And I think there are a couple of gating factors. Like, first is like the connectivity part is actually really challenging. So you have connectivity challenges just mechanically, and then you have interoperability challenges where if you don't buy all the same devices from one company or another, oftentimes you're locked into that company's universe of products. And you can end up with multiple smart home applications that don't really talk well together. The Connectivity Standards Alliance, the CSA, is driving a new standard called Matter, which you might have heard of.
I have not.
And I think so Matter is a new standard that Apple and Google, Samsung, basically every major player in this space is rallying behind as a core way to talk to the devices in our house. Where previously you might have had to launch the August app or the Nest app to talk to your August lock or your Nest thermostat. We're talking about a way that inside your Apple Home or Google Home, Samsung Smart Things, you can bring in all the devices in your house. So I think just connectivity has been a challenge before we even talk about how we really start to control and move through these spaces.
And that's a little bit surprising because the home is where we spend most of our time, and yet it still hasn't, I don't think, really achieved the same technological AI standard as the automobile, right? We're talking about
for sure
driverless cars. We're talking about being able to LiDAR and geosynchronous automobiles. Tell me a little bit about what you envision the future will be in the next generation of this AI application to the home.
Sure. So, I mean, I think it starts with a control plane that can talk to all the stuff that's in your house that a computer might be able to talk to, right? So it might talk to your microwave, and it might talk to your refrigerator, it might talk to your front door and your video cameras. And once you have that, you can start to infer user intent, right? We had talked previous to this about the notion like you might have someday you would have an AI drink machine, right? But if your AI drink machine guesses wrong and gives you the wrong drink or makes a drink when you're not home, it's not all that smart feeling. And I think that you need a system that can start to detect what the user is trying to do and sort of determine their intent and then meet that intent in the moment. And so I think it requires this level of connectedness that doesn't exist today, really. And then once you have that intent, it allows the home to actually be intelligent and to sense what you're doing and try and augment that in a very natural way.
So how would the home of the future be able to predict what I want or what I desire?
I think in its simplest form, it observes you for a while and tries to build generalizations about your behavior. A good example I was thinking about this morning is, I wake up, my wife makes coffee, we get our coffee, we go to the front room, and we read while looking at the fog coming in San Francisco. And if a computer watched my behavior for 90 days, it would really predictably be able to figure out all the major milestones along that journey and things that might happen to indicate that we're not going to do it the normal way. I think that it requires a sensing first before the home can go do something magical for you. It first has to develop sort of the sensing capability and to be able to understand and build patterns out of the ways that you interact.
So is that at the heart of what you're working on? Is this ability to anticipate, or is it linking to something broader in being able to actually communicate with your home as you would an LLM or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So the Doma product tries to solve a small portion of this exercise, right? Which is how do you build a really smart, intelligent feeling, sensing experience around one specific thing? A question is like, can you imagine a smart home? I think the smart home of the future is probably this integrated, cohesive intelligence that sort of has, it can do lots of things. It understands you in lots of contexts. But to start, like I would take a vacuum cleaner that reliably vacuums the rooms that are dirty and understands where we're doing things. And I think the Doma product that we're building is rooted in the tradition and the history of August Home, right, which is the first real smart lock company. And so you can imagine that we're thinking a bunch about the entryway, because I think that at the entryway you have a lot of rituals. You greet guests, you receive packages, you're late and you're running out the door. There are all these stories around just the day-to-day interactions around something. And we think that we can build systems that understand the context of how you're interacting with them and make a better entryway experience.
And tell me a little bit about your personal journey. I know that you've come from a pretty diverse background to now be in smart homes. You have experience in healthcare. How did you end up where you are now, and how do you think that's prepared you for what this new generation of smart homes will be?
Yeah, so I feel like my career trajectory has always been chasing things that I'm curious about. So yes, I built a consumer product. I've built some enterprise software. My last company is a telemedicine company, and prior to that, I had no real medical experience. But I wanted to see whether I could make a difference in building technology that solved practical healthcare problems. While I was doing that, the pandemic happened, and I ended up in this office that I'm sitting in now for 3-4 years, where I really didn't go very many other places. And one of my pandemic projects was to retrofit this old 1890s Victorian in San Francisco to make the light switches work better. Right? I think that the promise of smart home is oftentimes like this very whiz-bang idea, but like in reality, I wanted my light switches to control the lights in the room to make the room less dark. And in an old home, you oftentimes have to rewire the whole thing in order to solve these very real problems. And so I started with one room, and it slowly, I think the pandemic gave us all new hobbies. And one of my hobbies was slowly transforming my house. And so this process informed me about sort of the state of the current market and the products and companies that I think are doing really great jobs, as well as the deficiencies and what I wish companies would build and the ways that I wish that they would build them. So I, by the time I was starting to explore what I was going to do next, I met Jason again, who's an old friend, he sort of told me the story of what he's thinking about with Doma, I was sort of primed for this experience in some ways just by nature of like the things that I'm most interested in.
Let's play a little game, right? If you had your dream of what your home could do for you,
yeah,
what's the number one thing that a smart home would enable you to do? And then I'll go.
Yeah, that's great. I think that really luxury technology is actually very invisible, right? It gives you it never surprise, like you should always know what it's going to do. You have to have a mental model that it behaves predictably, and then it should do those things, and it should pretty much get out of the way. So like I think my luxury smart home experiences are ones that are not blinking LEDs all over the place or anything like that. It's lighting that adapts to where I'm going, and it's controlling room temperatures based off of my experience, and it's I think we need new language for new ways that houses can have arms and legs to help you do things. I think that's something we're exploring abstractly a little bit at Doma. We need more. The house needs more capabilities to actually be able to do practical things for you. So I have some ideas around where we're going with that, and that's in part what we're doing at my day job.
Well, I'll give you my big wish to start with, and that is one of my biggest beefs in the world is cleaning my gutters. Okay.
Yeah.
And they have something called gutter guards. They don't really work. They just allow less water to go into your gutters, right? It's ridiculous. And I always thought that would be a really cool thing to automate is how to get something to go through your gutter and clean it for you, because it always happens at the worst possible time. And that's when it's pouring rain and you see it overflowing and you never remember. So that's one of my big dreams. But I'm a kind of DIY kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
And I never know what I have and what I don't have. Do I have a certain kind of screw or a certain kind of fastener? I always think, and what I do now is I take ChatGPT and I line them up, all that I have, and take pictures, put them in a spreadsheet. But I always think, man, an inventory management system for my garage would be like an epiphany, because I end up buying the same thing over and over again every year. And these are the things that it baffles me. And as I said in our pre-call, they have robotic lawnmowers. In fact, we represent such a company, and they're awesome. But they still haven't come up with something that cleans up after your dog and your lawn, which is my second big beef in my life. And as we were talking about, I don't think it's going to be one system that does it all. That's going to be, like we were saying, a humanoid robot that can do all these things. I think there'll be distinct needs that come forward and then become, what did you call it? Transparent, no LED lights. I always analogize it to a remote car door opener. You use it once and you never go back. You never think about it. You never it never comes back into your world again, because it's so perfect. It's a single-use technology that is undeniable. Like, why wouldn't you use this? And I have found in doing this smart home installations of my past, it's too difficult to connect. It's too unwieldy. It's awkward for the payoff, and the payoff is going down and answering the door. I mean, I feel you, and I think there's a lot of room in the home market for applications that could rid us of these chores, just as is happening in the workplace, right? Your thoughts? Yeah.
No, something you said in there I think is interesting. Like an inventory system for your garage is a good test case,
or
right?
Or your LPs, right? Or anything that you collect, right?
So like you can imagine a world where we install cameras in your house, and then the house can observe you. But I think there's also this human back pressure around privacy, right? And like, how much do you want a machine that may be operating in your house, maybe operating in the cloud, to be able to see what's happening in your house on a day-to-day basis? An early version of a Doma prototype that we won't be shipping had an interior-facing camera, and it was very powerful. We could do some really cool things with it. But I think there's a balance to be reached about how, like, there is the promise of all this technology. I think that this technology works really well in the workplace where we have a clear idea of privacy boundaries established by court law and sort of, societal norms. I think how this operates in the house is still something we've got to figure out and get comfortable with.
It's interesting. I think people object to privacy issues unless it fulfills a real need, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I'm old enough, I had the great fortune early in my life. I worked with one of the first digital photographic companies in the world. And it was a technology that was kind of a betweener between going completely off the 35 millimeter film and becoming digital. And you would take pictures on your 35 millimeter camera. You take them to, which don't exist anymore, a photo developer, right? Like Photomat, they're no longer there. And they would digitize them and you receive them back on your computer and you'd go, I've never seen anything like that, my own pictures on my computer. And I was funny, early in the marketing of that, we had focus groups. And consumers said in every focus group, I would never do that. I would never put my pictures online. I'm never going to do that. That is so insecure. That really invalidates all my privacy. But then, when it became so accessible, right, and the advantage of it was so great that you could now take pictures, I was just on vacation, and send them around the world, right, and share experiences with everyone. That overrode lots of the issues facing privacy with images online. If you can imagine, that was even an issue, right, today. So I think the key is to find solutions that really do benefit or solve a problem. And it's so much easier than to overcome the hesitation of privacy and security. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I'm a privacy and security oriented person. I came from healthcare, which taught me a lot about sort of the implementation details that go into making a system meaningfully secure. I have my own hesitations about pointing cameras inside my house or buying IoT devices that I don't know or trust the manufacturer. And so I think part of the philosophy that we're trying to build with Doma is one that respects the user, that has a privacy as a core component and a believable technical story that supports it. That it's not just a marketing message, but like the way that we architect our technology is one that may not satisfy every privacy wonk's best, highest standards, but for a reasonable, meaningful definition of privacy and security is something that we can really talk about in a transparent way. I think one of the parts to ensuring that a user has control over the house is to move it from the cloud to as much local as possible, right? And so that the devices that you have in your house, the smart home things, don't require a cloud in order to operate. If you imagine, like a smart lock, you can control it from your phone. Most of the smart locks on the market today, you can control from your phone either via Bluetooth or via your wireless network. But if your wireless network goes down, oftentimes you can't. But smart locks have kind of solved this problem by way of Bluetooth, and now with Matter and Apple's HomeKit, there are ways that you can control them locally. I think that the technology that we are exploring is much more complex than that, but we're looking at ways that we can have it run in your home as much as possible so that if we are using camera footage, that it doesn't leave the house unless you say it does. But I think maybe to your point earlier,
help me with that.
You're right.
Help me with that for 1 second. So the cameras are observing you, looking at behavior, and becoming predictive, right? So I guess the predictive part would be some sort of AI.
Yeah.
Okay. And so would this mean that you would have a localized AI engine of some sort within your house? Explain that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think broadly the future is moving AI from the cloud to the edge as much as possible. There are a bunch of great reasons why we want to do this, right? From a real-time performance perspective, you're not waiting for the cloud to respond. But it has the privacy advantages of running completely in your home. So it doesn't, there's no chance that data will leave. So there are places where you desperately need the raw horsepower that a cloud provider can give you that you'll never put into a home. But there are a lot of very useful LLMs that exist today and other ML technologies that you can run on relatively constrained devices. Google's done a really great job.
DeepSeek, that's what disrupted the market 4 months ago.
Yeah. Right. These things that used to be, and I think there are sort of computational shifts that are happening, but also algorithmic shifts where, our ability to run a high power model on relatively low power equipment is, I think there's a step function every, call it some number of months where the hardware hasn't changed, but our ability to do things has.
Well, that's very smart, because I do think a lot of the innovation of the future is going to become iterative with regard to how you optimize the processing, where it happens, how you manage energy, how you enable privacy. And you're right. I think a lot of these small language models are stunning in their ability to give you the high horsepower results with much less processing and energy going into it. And I think energy is going to be a big issue with that in the future too, is that,
for sure,
we're going to have to decide which models get what in order to optimize just not the results. And that's our big focus right now, is how do you get the best possible results? But within that, you got to ask you, how do you best use the technology for compute and energy and all that goes along with coming up with those results? So,
but I think there's an additional layer to this, which is when you're building a hardware company that has a cloud software cost structure to it, right? I mean, we're familiar with sort of the cost models around tokens today. To build a product, I think another core aspect of Doma is we observe that at August, people would install their August locks and leave them for years, basically until mechanical failure. So smart home products have a relatively long lifespan, and to build a software architecture that can support those products in the market requires us to think about, what's the most cost-effective way to deliver a magical experience, right? And, we may be able to throw it to the latest and greatest OpenAI model, for development purposes, but short of charging the customer for, another service fee for the hardware that's already in their home, which, is something that I sort of want to avoid if I can. How do you deliver great experiences in a well understood cost structure? And I think that local processing really helps us with that.
Well, it's been an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to what the launch will be and how I can apply it in my own life. It sounds like you're on many a very intelligent track that's going to deliver real results, just not in what we see today, but what could be tomorrow. So I appreciate you spending time with us, and I'll certainly be following your progress. And I know that you're a Penn State Nittany Lion, so we'll get back when the season opens and see if they can beat their phenomenal 2024 year that they just had. But thank you for being with us, and it's been really enlightening in what the future of the home will be and why it seems to be a little bit in back of what we're seeing in automobiles and the workplace. So thanks, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion today and want to continue exploring the transformative power of AI, please check out more episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.